Hey guys, how you doing? It's your boy Rick here. Just coming to you with a video that it's just on my heart. I've been meaning to make this video from last week, but some of the things that have happened today, as of today, today's Sunday, the 13th of August, really just made me go out and write the article and and make this video. Make sure you read the article that's connected to this because this really hits when there were some protests that happened in Charlottesville, North Carolina in America, and where there were groups of mainly young people, some who were so-called white supremacist, white nationalist group, and so-called protesters against that clashed. And I think as of making this video, one person has been confirmed dead, one young lady has been confirmed dead, and I really want to talk about some of the values that we need back in our communities. The world today just seems so divided, guys, and it's we live in such a politically and racially charged atmosphere. It's actually crazy, and I don't know if maybe it's just because everything is being filmed now, and so we see it in real time, but you know it really gets to me. And everybody's just blaming each other. We're just blaming each other. We're looking at everything at what we believe is wrong, and instead of listening to each other, we're just shouting over each other and trying to destroy each other. For me, I just thought the blame game a long time ago. you know I decided that I'm not about the blame game. It's too easy, to blame, because it stops short of you looking into yourself and being reflective and introspective about what we did to contribute to this toxic atmosphere. So whenever violence, murder, hate on any level whatsoever, happens, I am really, really tempted to look at our 21st century value system and to ask if this has anything to do with it. So today's video is a little bit longer, but I hope that you're gonna just listen to me from your heart and not just like dismiss me straight away, because I think I have something to say here. Values are what affect human behavior, and these have slowly been dying out. Good values have slowly been dying out. I've noticed throughout the course of my lifetime. You can trace any behavior that a person does to a value that they hold. You believe a certain way and therefore you act. And most of our value systems, were solidified in us while we were growing up. Most of the value systems that we live by now are not things that the value system was already imputed in us like a computer, and we're just living out what the program says, the value system says. So I wanted to just challenge some of the values and give you examples of some healthy values that form the core of a human being that I think are lacking today. Let me give you examples. Now, there are many value systems missing, but I'm just giving you a few examples because I'm just trying to get the ball rolling of you thinking and of us thinking. Even as a community, whatever community we are in, maybe we should be looking at ourselves and saying, how are we raising our children? Is this where we are raising them going to result in good things for the community or in bad things? Because these children who we're putting these in 20 years time, they are going to be the ones ruling the nations. They're going to be the ones at the top. They're going to be the ones taking care of us. And if we have failed them as adults to put the values in them as a society that build a society and a community, then we're screwed, guys. We're screwed, and our civilization is not going to last. So number one, the value of freedom and personal responsibility. Now, I put these two values because they're almost opposing values that really support the same thing. Freedom and personal responsibility. There is a balance that comes, and we must understand it. As we look at the freedom that we enjoy, I live in England, and, in the Western world, we enjoy certain freedoms and take them for granted. But, you must take responsibility for behavior that will make us all free, right? we have freedom in the United States and in England because people fought for that freedom, right? There are still countries in the world that are still fighting for their freedom. So we have to take that responsibility. Countries that refuse to take responsibility are not free. They are dictators, keep, like crushing them underfoot because they're not that. So if we just tell our children that they are free to do whatever they want, but not to teach them that they need to take responsibility to build the society itself, decency, common decency, that allows you not to encroach on your neighbor, because then you're encroaching on their freedom, and you wouldn't like it if someone did it to you, would you? That's basic discipline, and we're not teaching our children that. A second value that we don't have and we need is diligence and hard work. This value is what built the prosperity of every prosperous nation, community, every prosperous family that enjoys success today was because of hard work and diligence. And if it wasn't the person who's living it now, their father or their mother or their uncle or their grandfather worked hard so that they could have it. Now, it's easy to look at someone who has the money and the success that you envy and plot, how can I take it away from them? But that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. What's hard is finding out what it took for them or their father or even their ancestors to get the prosperity and then try and do it yourself. Africa, for instance, Africa will never rise if we don't instill a culture that respects, celebrates, and rewards the dignity of labor. As opposed to, superstition, religiosity, stupid religiosity with no work, and corruption, because those are the values that we enshrine in Africa right now. These countries, they didn't become big. Britain didn't become big because they were just being superstitious. They've become less superstitious now, and they're becoming more of an atheist nation because they respect the dignity of labor. That's how they got an industrial revolution, because they were working. Now, okay, some of the practices you can quote, but the value is what I'm talking about. You can question some of the practices that they did, child labor, etc. But guys, these are the values that we need. Our children need these values, because if they grow up entitled, thinking that they can take stuff from people if they feel that they're not privileged, I should take stuff from privileged people. Guess what? The next person they're coming to take stuff from is you. It's you. You may think, I'm not rich, I'm just middle class. But what happens when they then look at you and say, you have a nice house and I want that nice house? I'm going to kill you so that I can have that nice house. This is why values are important. Another value that I really think is missing and that we really need in our communities is cheerfulness and a zest for life. In order to fight the epidemic of depression that's happening among young and old people these days, I think that we need to learn again how to create and maintain our own joy through our own free will. If you are waiting to be stimulated to be joyful by someone else, by something else, then you're a weak man or woman, and life is going to be tough. And you may think that I'm being harsh, but unfortunately, life is even harsher than I am being right now. I would rather be a little harsh for you in this video and then not let life really throw, because that's why we end up killing ourselves. Because we're not being given the value to say no, you must almost forcefully seek out your own joy. Find joy in what you do. Live a life of impact. When you're giving rather than just taking every time, that will give you a bit more joy. If your life is, why do you think there are people who are privileged and really, really good lives and they just kill themselves? because of that selfishness, that living of selfishness. When you live for something apart from yourself, oh, that's an amazing value you can help to put in someone. And the last value that I'm going to talk about in this video is love. That we seem to have lost the true meaning of love. And in a time when love is being sung about in almost every song, but do we really know what the true meaning of love is? Do we confuse love and love sickness? Do husbands and wives, boys and girls, confuse love and sex? Because that's the truth. Love is more than that. Love is regarding someone else more than you, and preferring someone to yourself, and doing something to someone and for someone regardless of getting anything back. It's taking a look at someone who doesn't look like you and being able to be empathetic to them and loving them anyway. It's having someone do something shitty to you, but you continue to be good to them. These are the values I'm talking about, my friends. And I'm really hoping, this is not the usual kind of video I do. My usual videos are around, but I feel that I'm an educator, and some of these things, when we don't have love, then violence will be the order of the day. When you don't have love, and if you don't grow up seeing love in the family, it's tough for you to then love. And some of the things that we think is love is just overbearing over children. So I know a lot of people who are, maybe they go ahead and have 1 or 2 kids, and they just put everything and every single ounce of love into that kid. And the parents are not loving to each other at the expense of the children. They're not loving to other adults around them at the expense of the children. Children see this. And unfortunately, what they learn from this is to be egotists. Children learn that, I am the most important thing in the world. And so they can never love anybody else. And that is dangerous, because then you raise children and adults who are unable to really love. And I can see that in our society today. So parents, teachers, society, adults, family, we are responsible for instilling values, and instilling values starting from childhood. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about, that values start from childhood. This is scientifically proven. Psychologists have known this for years, and unfortunately, we're almost giving we're letting society, right, and government run out the instilling of values in our children for us. Is it because we're lazy? Why? I personally may not have kids, but guess what? I was a child, and I am very introspective. I'm always looking over my childhood years and seeing what were the good things that were put in me that made me turn out good. What were the bad things that I need to adjust now that I'm an adult? Things that were not taught to me well. For too long, we are relegating the values that our kids get to government and schools. We can't do that, because there's a problem. The kids are watching you. The kids are watching your behavior. Don't be lazy. As a society, we can't be lazy, because now we are reaping the rewards of that laziness. Let's take an example, right? The stages of growth between the age of 0 and 18, when a child is growing up into an adult. That's when development of values happens, and that's when they develop who they are. So let me tell you some of the things that happens. Between when a child is 0 and 3, right? 0 and 3 years old, the foundation of their humanity, the foundation of them as a person is laid. This is an extremely important phase. Personality forms at that point. It's not enough to change a child's diaper and keep them preoccupied with iPads, because it is a sacrifice to talk to them, to tell them stories, even when they look like they don't even understand it. But that time will go so quickly, and the foundation of who they are as kids will be there. There's so many kids who are messed up now because of what happened between 0 and 3 years old. Between 3 and 6 years old, mental development is happening in a way that can be really influenced now. So between 0 and 3, maybe you can't really tell what's happening, but between 3 and 6, the kid is talking to you when they're a toddler. An expensive presents and gifts and putting a roof over a child's head is not enough. It's not enough, man, because they see what you're doing and they try to model themselves after you. This is the time when they get a sense of identity as a member of society and as a human being. And if you are not really teaching them the values, what love really is, their role as a boy, as a girl in this world, their part, and who they are, and to have pride in their ethnicity, in their race, in whatever, and teaching them that they are strong, whatever gender they are. That is what it takes to build society, to put values in our communities so that our communities can rise up strong. And between the age of 6 and 12, now we all know that this is where a child develops. They develop quietly, though. At this point, their personality is developing, so it may not look like much is happening. They may not change that much, besides height much, but there's a lot happening in their head. Now, you see, are you relegating that period to them being raised by YouTube vloggers and Instagram influencers? Yeah, is Logan Paul, raising your child? While you are lazy, is some vlogger from halfway across the world raising your child for you? It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out if you do that. Through whatever circumstances, your child is with you, whatever circumstances in which your child ended up with you. And I'm not judging, people are in different situations, but they're now with you, and you got to do something. You've got to make the sacrifice. You've got to make the sacrifice. You can't. I know we want to live our own lives, but it's not going to end well for us as society if we don't instill great values in our kids. And lastly, between the ages of 12 and 18, the teen years, that's the time when there's going to be a rapid physiological change. There's also a rapid physiological change in your child as an adult starts to appear where that child once was. Back when I used to lead a youth group, I used to think to myself and to say to myself that these teen years are the years that a child is deciding what sort of adult they are gonna be. And so you have to come in there and help them form good values. Because if you don't let them, and this is discipline. This is really what discipline is. Discipline is not beating a child. It's helping them form their values. But let me tell you something about discipline. If you don't discipline your child, life will discipline your child for you. Now, you will do that discipline in a loving way. Life is not emotional. Life is just logical, and life will come in and rain down really tough discipline on your child. And then we will see what happens. Do we not see that right now with the law discipline our children instead of us? If the law ends up disciplining our children, the law can sometimes be harsh. And you can complain all you want, but your child is gone by then. Don't do that. And those are the extreme examples of kids who get killed. What about the ones who end up in prison? And now we're just crying and we're going to church praying, oh God, can you release my child from prison? But where were you when you were in terms of instilling those values in the children? So guys, I really hope you take this to heart. Like the page, comment, let me know what you think. Let's get a dialogue going. Let's start to build great values in our communities. All right, I'm going to take it. I'm going to see you later, guys. Bye.